cricket?
The game has a built-in strategy, and the strategy can be debated by the players and debated by the spectators. And that's pure American. When you can sit there and debate how somebody should do something in sports, you're talking about big spectator potential.
Cricket in America foxes me, I must admit. I like the 501 and so forth, but I've been outfoxed by many Americans playing that game, and I don't think I'd let to put any dollars down on that particular game, me against one of the top Americans.
Well, as my mate Cliff says, we Brits are a little bit foxed by the game cricket. While having other names such as Mickey Mouse or Tactics, it is now being played professionally in major North American tournaments. As a result, we've had some catching up to do. Let's begin by looking at the rules.
Cricket is played using the numbers 20 through 15 and the bull. The objective is to own or close those numbers by scoring 3 of each, which can be done by 3 singles, a single and a double, or a triple. Once a player owns a number, he may then score points until their opponent also closes that number. The player to close all the numbers first and have an equal or higher score than their opponent shall be declared the winner.
While the rules are simple enough, the strategies and opinions of the game vary greatly. So here are some tips to always be aware of. Get ahead, stay ahead. Never get caught building up on one number while your opponent closes out everything else. Play with your strengths. If you close 20s and then you feel better about 18s over 19s, then do it. On the other hand, if you're great at closing everything else but the balls, then you better pick up some insurance points along the way. Finally, there are many ways to become a cricket strategist, but you've got to be a good dart player first. Skill will dictate your ability to take advantage of a situation and become a great cricket champion.
As the game is unique in its various strategies, we felt it best to show you an example of an actual game situation. Here, Dan begins by closing 20s and scoring 20 points as well. Rod then decides to counter by attempting to close 19s. He hits only 2, which leaves Dan the opportunity to close them first. Dan is successful in closing the 19s and increases his lead further by scoring 19 points as well. As we pick up the game later, we see Rod is still trying to close the remaining open numbers, hoping to catch Dan on points. Dan, satisfied with his short lead, decides to keep closing numbers rather than build up on points. Here, he hits 3 16s, allowing Rod only 15s and the bull to score points on. At this point, Rod decides to close bulls. He scores 3, allowing him to score points from now on, unless Dan can also close bulls. Dan decides to close 15s, a higher percentage shot and also an area to easily increase his lead on points. As we now review the score, Dan is open to score points on 20s, 16s, and 15s, while Rod is only able to score points on bulls. But remember, an inner bull shot is worth 50 points. Now, as we pick up the game later, we see both players have chosen to go after points. Here, Rod has closed 20s and only needs a triple 15 and a 16 to win the game. On the other hand, Dan needs to regain the lead and go for the bulls to ensure his success. Dan does get the lead back with a triple 16 and 2 singles. It is now up to Rod to score heavy on the bulls to hold off Dan's challenge. He hits only 1, leaving Dan with a slim lead. Dan decides to go for the win by trying to close bulls. He misses on his first 2 shots and goes for some insurance points on the 16s, but misses here as well. With those 3 misses, Rod is poised for the win, but he does need a perfect sequence of shots to do so. He needs a single 16 and a triple 15 to close all his numbers. But then he also needs a bull to score points, as you must have a higher score than your opponent and close all your numbers to win. Rod begins by scoring the bull, then the single 16 and the triple 15 to win the match. Review. Close the numbers that favor your strengths. Never get caught building up on one number. Get insurance points to protect a lead. And as your skill level improves, your strategy will become more effective. Tip number 7, practicing.
If I had any advice to any young players, or in my case, old players, it would be maybe 3 things. Practice, practice, practice.
Having the ability to throw that final double to close out the game and win it all takes only those 3 things mentioned. Practice, practice, and more practice. Sounds simple enough, but in order to get the most out of your practice sessions, you must follow a proper format of exercises. Remember, strong preparation will have you ready to meet any challenge. So let's have a look at some exercises you can use to stay sharp. For starters, around the clock is a good practice exercise. This involves working your way around the board in order, 1 through 20. By keeping track of the number of darts thrown, you can challenge yourself at your next session. This exercise will help you become more familiar with the board and improve your accuracy as well. Now that you know the board, the next thing to do is to practice finishing. Start out by finishing out from 41 and working up. Give yourself a preset time period and see how high you can reach. Again, keep track of that number and challenge yourself next time. Once you've been able to master these exercises, you're probably ready for tournament play. Well, maybe not everyone, but for those who are, there are 3 different practices you can use when preparing for a tournament. First, practice scoring high, the treble 20s, 19s, bulls, etc. Second, use the finishing exercise just described. Third, practice against the best opponents you can find in precisely the type of format the tournament is using.
Review. Use other games to improve your accuracy and your knowledge of the board. Practice your finishing combinations. Keep your practicing fun and productive by measuring your progress. When preparing for a tournament, play in the format described against the best opponents you can find. Tip number 8, the mental game.
I think it was best of 9, and we were 4-4. And I had to throw, and I left Eric standing, and I had 6 darts at a double. And just before I threw the last 3, Eric went over the trophy. He'd won it 2 years previous. And he went over the trophy, and he kissed the trophy. And I still had 3 darts in my hand going for the double. And I went up, and I was so determined to hit that double. And I think the hands went, stomach went, and everything went at that time. And I missed. And that guy stepped up there and hit that double.
It's been said that some sports are 90% mental and 10% skill. Well, I'm sure people would argue that fact. But I've seen a lot of good players never reach their potential because of nerves. This is probably due to the fact that each of us concentrates differently. This in itself may make you vulnerable to different types of distractions which can greatly affect your game.